Dr. Engineer Nadia Al-Arabi. Dr. Nadia is a fine and unique example of success because she was successful as an engineer and also as an athlete. And she's a fine proof that age does not matter. You can always continue in your success on different domains. I'm happy to have with me Engineer Nadia Al-Arabi, who's not only an engineer but also a very impressive swimmer, who will talk to us about her life and also about how she managed to achieve international positions in the field of swimming. Welcome, Doctor.
Oh, well, thank you. Welcome to you.
First of all, I'd like to ask you about, first of course, your work, because you were an engineer. Why did you decide to study engineering?
I always loved maths and physics. That's why I studied engineers. I have my parents, my late parents were both doctors, but I preferred engineering because I loved mathematics as a child.
Yes. After that, after you graduated, you worked as an engineer. What was exactly your field of specialty?
I graduated as an electrical engineer in 1967, and I studied my master's in computer science, and computer science at that time was very new. I worked at the National Research Center in Tahrir Street, and I took my master's, and then I studied for my PhD in the United States. And then I came back and I started working in different companies. I worked in the Academy of Science, and I worked in a construction company. I worked in different fields. I was working mainly in the computer center, or at the end I was working as a project manager with the USAID for writing proposals for projects.
Doctor, you mentioned that you worked with the National Research Center here in Egypt. So how do you find scientific research in Egypt compared to abroad, since you've studied abroad?
I find that we need to have a lot of equipment, a lot of support. But that was then. I don't know, maybe they have advanced that now a lot. But when I was studying, it was a bit difficult to study. I was studying in a new field. I was studying in the Arabization of computers, and the computers at that time were only in English. And we did not have a lot of papers published at that time in this field. So it was very difficult to study. When I studied in the States, I also studied in a new field, which is database. But at that time it was new. I'm speaking about in the 70s. So, but they had a lot of papers. It was very easy to go to the library and ask for any paper, and they would photocopy.
Doctor, you mentioned earlier that you worked with the National Research Center. How, at that time, did you find the research in Egypt, at that time, of course?
At that time, the research needed more equipment, more books, more references to find. I was working in a new field. I was working in the Arabization of computers. I took my master's in Arabization in computers, and we hardly had any references to go through. So it was very difficult to start a new field. When I went to the States, to study in my PhD. I studied also a new field at that time, which was database, but they had a lot of references. There were a lot of universities working at the same time in the same field, and all the universities helped each other, and there was a lot of help up there.
Doctor, when did you get married?
I got married 2 years after I graduated.
So how did you manage to do the masters and PhD when you were still and travel abroad while you were married?
I had a lot of support from my late husband. He also was doing his PhD at that time, and he knew that it was important for me to finish my master's and my PhD since I'm working in the National Research Center. So he was very supportive of my husband.
When your late husband was alive, and now you were an engineer, you had to work, and you later on became a mother, I understand, because you told me before the interview that you're a grandma as well. What's the equation for a woman, a working woman, to be successful both indoors at the house and also outside? Because you reached high positions in a variety of establishments you worked for.
Well, we always say that behind a great man is a great woman. Behind a great woman is a great man also. You have to have coordination in the work. You have to help each other. If someone is not helping, it just doesn't work. But if you have support from your husband, from your partner, whoever it is, you can do a lot of things.
Doctor, actually, although now you are an international master swimming champion, but this is not your first championship, because actually you were a champion during at university as well. Would you talk to us about swimming during your university studies?
During the university, actually, I was playing a lot of things. Any free time I had between lectures, I was either playing swimming or ping pong or basketball or athletics. I used to have championships in running, in high jump. I used to go a lot with the university in any sports they want, because I just loved sports.
So when did you start swimming in general in your life?
I started swimming, I was around 6 years old. I started learning swimming, and I swam for the club here in the Gezira Club. And when I went to the university, I continued for any competitions they had. I used to participate in.
So, doctor, can we move to the pool together?
Yes, sure.
And there we'll continue our interview.
Okay, let's do that.
So let's go. Now it's time for the Eye of Horus. It's time to continue our visit in the museum of Dr. Hassan Ragab. Doctor, here this is a set of photographs for him, and before the interview you told me that he went and watched the testing of the atomic bomb. That's very courageous, and still it's very daring and dangerous too. Wasn't he scared?
No, I don't think he was scared, because he didn't know the significance, he didn't know the danger. Nobody knew the danger at the time. But they were in a boat who was around 10 to 15 miles from the site of the explosion, and this was an explosion on boats near the island of Bikini, which is in the Pacific Ocean.
When was that?
1947. This is as soon as he arrived in the States, and he was the military attaché, so they invited all the military attachés to come and see this. And this was